In this video, we're going to walk through a solution to the Product Purchase Analysis SQL interview question. So let's jump in. So in this question, we're given the table purchase records, and in this table, it'll have a purchase ID, which is an integer, an item ID, which is an integer, the purchase year, which is an integer, unit sold, which is an integer, and the unit price, which is also an integer. So the purchase ID and purchase year combine to make the primary key. The item ID is a foreign key that references the items table. And then we also have additional information about each purchase. So then looking at the items table, this is a table that has two columns. So it's item ID, which is the integer, and as you saw is the foreign key to the item ID in the purchase records table. And then we have the item name, which is simply a varchar. And so our job is to write a solution to report the item name, purchase year, and unit price for each of the purchase IDs in the purchase records table. And it is our job to return the resulting table in any order. So if we look at this example here, so in our purchase records table, we have three purchases. So if we look at the first one here, it has a purchase ID of 1 and an item ID of 10. So then if we look at the items table, we see the item ID of 10 is a laptop, so we can return laptop because we have to return the name. Then we also need to return the purchase year. In this case, it would be 2020, and then the unit price is 3,000. So you can see in our output here, we have laptop 2020 and then 3,000 for the unit price. Next, purchase ID is 2. We can see its associated item ID is 10. So again, we go back down to the items table. We can see it has an item name of laptop. The purchase year is 2021 and the unit price is 3,000. So we simply return that. Laptop 2021, 3,000. And then finally, in the purchase records table, the purchase ID of 3 has the associated item ID of 20. So if we go down to the items table, the item ID of 20, the item name is a smartphone, the purchase year is 2022, and the unit price is 7,000. And so there it is, smartphone, 2022 and 7,000. So it's pretty straightforward when you're able to see the tables like that. So let's walk through the coding solution now. So firstly, we'll use select to retrieve the item name from the items table, and we're using I as an alias for the items table, and you'll see that later on in the solution. And then we'll get the purchase year and unit price from the purchase records table, which we are aliasing with P, which will also be shown in a second. Then we're using from to select from the purchase records table, and then again here we're creating that alias of P, and then we're joining. So we have the items table, which here we're creating that alias of I, and then we're saying on, so P referencing purchase records table, item ID is equal to the item ID on the items table. And so to get a better understanding of join, or also known as inner joins, I've created a simple example here. So let's say we have this sample SQL query where we select the column names from table 1 and then we inner join on table 2, or join, it's their equivalent. And then so we can then say on table 1 column name equals table 2 column name. Essentially what we're achieving here is we are only selecting rows that satisfy that join condition, and all other rows are discarded. So if we look at our example, we are selecting only the rows where the item ID from purchase records equals an item ID on the items table. And so which rows survive? As we said, only those that satisfy the join condition. And what happens to rows without a match? Well, they are simply discarded. And then typical use cases include finding intersecting data. And in our case, it's purchases that have associated item IDs. So let's run the code and see if it passes. Perfect, the test pass. Let's run the test suite and see if all the tests pass. Perfect, all the tests pass. If you want to try it for yourself, the link to the question is in the description. And if you got any value out of it, please like and subscribe and share it with a friend. It helps the channel out a lot. And hopefully I will see you in the next one.